I will mention that we did add for 9A, approval of a science club field trip. Mr. Kehoe is here to discuss that tonight. He mentioned it to me this morning, so we wanted to get it on the agenda this evening.
Okay. Any additional items? If not, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
That's Kevin Bourne. Do we have a second?
So moved.
That's okay. I said I told you to turn it on, and I forgot to turn it on at the very beginning myself, so.
I'll second.
That's Tim Berg. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Recognition of visitors in open forum. We have Mr. Kehoe here to speak, and Michael Roy from the paper. Welcome. Reports and presentations. Student representative report.
Student council is currently working on planning Snow Week. We picked a day, it's during the week of Valentine's, the 14th. We are still working on our coordination, but we're working on planning different events. We met with the Bulldog backers and other different alumni to work on doing things to incorporate all members of the community during Snow Week, so we can work to do more with the alumni and the backers too.
Very good.
How far did you go back with the alumni?
Well, it was just, we met with, student council had a meeting last week, and we met with Holly, and then she just discussed some things, and then she had a group of alumni that were willing to do, they want to bring back the capes specifically, and then do other things where the past, like King and Queen, come back in to crown the current new ones. So then the past ones last year are planning to come in for the ones this year.
So just bringing back some of the old traditions
Yep.
that we had in the past.
And then
Makes
there's
sense.
other things with like decorations and whatnot that they want to incorporate throughout the week.
Okay. Well, it's awesome if they're willing to help and do that, so.
My understanding is they're starting small.
Yeah.
And then they want to help with homecoming next year in the
Okay.
future also.
Cool. Very good. Any questions for Zach? All right, thank you. B, superintendent report.
Okay, I have a number of things to discuss tonight. The first one is the roof issues that we're having. When they came to put the ventilation on the roof and everything, they had to build sleepers. And when they built them, covered them with rubber, did everything they were supposed to do. And now we're having all kinds of leaks. From the research that Schwickert's has done since they installed them, the glue that they use to hold the rubber down is not holding. So they will be here the next 2 weeks redoing all of their work, re-gluing it all. So they did go back to the manufacturer to figure this out. So I'm happy that we were able to figure this, that they were able to get this figured out with considering all the leaks we have had so far this fall, or this winter, between the rain and the melting snow.
I would assume that's covered.
That's covered, yes, so it's not our expense. The next thing I wanted to talk about was, just briefly, I gave everybody, yes,
Sorry, just, so we've got a lot of flat roof,
yep,
and most of our vendors will not work on it, you know, with the cold coming up and so on. So just be aware that even if they fix it during the winter, there's no guarantees what's gonna happen come spring, summer.
absolutely,
So we'll wanna make sure that we're holding them accountable throughout, but
yes,
it's gonna be tough to fix it with the weather coming up.
yep,
Cold, yeah. Good point.
so, yes, thank you for that, Mr. Bourne. And I'll make sure Mr. Dashner knows about it also. But, Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan came out with the One Minnesota budget. This is their proposal, so I just wanted to give it to you to look over. A couple things that, when I was looking through it and highlighting in it, the big thing is they want to eventually get to the general fund, or the general funding formula to inflation. So by 2026, that's their goal, is that it will stay with inflation, where this year would be a 4% increase, next year would be a 2%. Universal meals for all students, breakfast and lunch, and then reducing special education cross subsidies by 50%. So, just things to be aware of that may be coming up as they bring this forward to the legislature. So, like I said, this is just a proposal, but wanted to get it in your hands just in case you had any questions about it. Another thing, city council met last week. I reached out to them a while back asking if we could do something to get some additional handicap parking signs for along Third Street during events. I've gotten a number of complaints about handicap parking so far away. It's slippery when we walk up the hill and whatnot. So I did reach out to Clinton and ask what we would need to do to move forward with this, to get temporary ones that we could put out at the end of the school day, to make them handicap for the evening, and then the custodians could pull them in. He just needed to take it to the city council. They did discuss it last week and approved us having 3 signs. So, once we get those signs, we'll put them out for event nights. So there's 3 additional handicap parking spots in front of the building. Then also, the city council talked about, I gotta go to the other side. They had a local housing study done here in Janesville. And, one thing that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention was, and it's quoted in here from, the company that did the work, is, there's a real desire to live in Janesville, he said. It's an attractive community, people like the schools, and they have great amenities. So they're talking about, throughout the whole article, they're talking about how they can increase housing here in Janesville, because they're trying to get more people into town. But one thing I wanted to emphasize is, people do like our school, and that's one of the reasons they're moving to Janesville.
That's good. Does the city have an idea? I guess I haven't been paying too much attention to that part, but where their next development would be in town?
Not that I've heard yet. So,
They'd probably have to annex some land though.
I would guess so,
So too.
annex. There has been a little bit of talk about west of town, with west Elysian Lake Road, but that's Excel Energy. And ours is, what's ours in town? They're different,
Center
Center
Point.
Center Point, so they would have to figure all of that out. And that is in the article too, about how they could swap that land or something along those lines. I don't exactly know how all that works,
Hmm.
so. As you all know, we did go into lockdown last week, evacuated the building. We do what's called ALICE here. It means alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate if need be. We have learned a lot from this incident, through getting information from law enforcement, the admin staff, teachers, about how it all went. And we're thankful that nobody was hurt during this. Everything is still in investigation, and the trainings we're doing is, now it's how we're changing things now that we've been through a serious situation like this. We have some good plans in place about communication templates that we've created, a reunification, a better plan for reunification, and just how the staff can appropriately respond to this. They did a great job, and our staff was awesome about it. Our students were awesome about it. They did exactly what we asked them to do. Now that we've been through something this serious, we've learned a lot from it. So we'll continue training our staff and learning about different ways to make sure that our staff and students are protected. So,
Is
and-
part of that, or how did, I heard that the clinic was locked down, but then I'd also heard that Trinity was not. Was there communication to, like, how did that communication get out to,
We communicate with Trinity.
okay,
So how the clinic chose to, or why the clinic chose to lock down and how they heard about it would have been through communication they got from the school, being parents.
oh, okay. I was just curious if
Well-
we somehow notified the town and there was like, you know, like when that shooting happened uptown, I know a lot of, some places locked down. I think the school was one of them, right, in the bank. I was
The
just-
school was notified of that.
Yeah. I was just curious how that
No, I think it's-
communication gets out. and-
Well, once you call the police department, that'd be up to them to notify the local businesses, not
Right.
us.
Yeah,
you
I was
know.
just curious about that, if there was such a chain that goes out to everybody
Yeah.
at least in the vicinity of the school for, you know, the church and the Trinity
Yeah,
and,
but that would still be up to
Yeah.
the
That-
city.
The
police
city, and
department.
they'd probably run it through the county's
Mhm.
dispatch system. But
But
I can, I'll ask OJ.
But I assume Trinity was a little different because their students would ride buses and would have to be part of that plan, right?
Absolutely. And when we did our debriefing, we included Trinity on
Right.
that to talk to them about, okay, what can we do different to help
Right.
you out with that communication?
okay.
But beyond that, I wouldn't think that we would have any requirement to notify anyone.
No, I was just curious if there were other, I had heard that the clinic was locked down. I didn't think we had notified them, but I didn't know how
Maybe
they,
after they saw the police presence or
Maybe.
something too.
Right?
yeah, okay.
So, any other questions about Alice? Graduate profile is something that we worked on a number of years ago that we met with staff about today during some staff development this morning. There's 5 major components that we talk about: global citizen, collaborator, communicator, creator, and which one did I miss? Critical thinker. So, 5 areas, talking with the staff about how they're implementing those in their plans and teaching kids how to have those 5 skills as they graduate from JWP. So something that we have really started to focus on and will continue to focus on in the future. Weight room is complete. They finished it today. So if you'd like a tour of the weight room, let me know. So it is done. It's a wonderful space, so being used quite often right now. Paul's still working on getting everything that hasn't sold to school districts posted, and they'll send it all out at one time to do closed bids on any of the extra equipment that hasn't sold yet. We've had to do an FRP for food service again this year. At MSBA last week, we picked up all the flyers for food service companies. I have given them to Matt, so he'll be sending those out specifically to those companies. He'll be sending out our letter. The other thing that considering or thinking about is talking to other school districts near us, whether it's Waseca, Wham, New Richland, about possibly doing a cooperative food service. So possibly working with them of, okay, you have the director, but they oversee our school too and the food and whatnot. So, just an idea that was expressed to us last week at MSBA, talking to, another superintendent, that's what he's heard of other schools looking into doing. So I thought, okay, it's worth a shot to talk to them, throw the idea out there, see if anybody is interested, where we would work together on that. I have not reached out to anybody at this point, but just throwing the idea out there of maybe this is an option too.
Oh, Kevin's got a question. I
Yes.
do too.
So again, this is gonna be a little bit my naivete. Are we always gonna do a company that we're outsourcing food service to kind of from here on out? Or is it gonna be something that you'll evaluate each year, or? I don't know how that decision was made, not
Right.
important, but what do you see for the future?
We had to go out this year, but I think a lot of it depends on how our food service is going. Right now, I would say we have some concerns about food service. So, I think it's wise of us to go out for a bid to see if there's another company that would be able to fulfill that for us. And if there's not another company, maybe we need to look at bringing it all back within, because we have that option too. It's more work to bring it all back in, and we have to hire the employees. However, if it's what's right for our kids, then I think that's what we'll need to do.
Does funding for our food service change at all, whether we're using an external company or if we have our own employees doing it? Does that change funding at all?
The biggest difference is that if we're using an external company, they have to make sure that we make a profit on them. So for example, we have Taher this year, and I think they've guaranteed us $43,000 profit this year on food service. So if we don't have that profit at the end of the year, Taher's responsible to make up the difference.
Okay,
So that's the difference. That's my understanding. There may be others, but that's my understanding of the biggest difference between using a company and using our own.
now if we so chose, could we have asked Taher to just break even instead of making a profit?
No,
Was that up to us?
no,
Okay.
that's the state,
Okay,
so.
so if it's our employees, we can break even or even lose money if we so choose.
Yeah, that's my understanding of it,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
With Tahar, recently, it sounds as though there was a snafu with payments
Yes.
where people got like hundreds of dollars delinquent notices.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any reason for that?
They didn't have the computer system set up like they thought. So
And that did go out to families.
it went,
We all got out. the
I sent an email
yeah.
out letting them know, but then Taher was supposed to have fixed it. It didn't get fixed. Therefore, Mike wrote an ad hoc for it in our computer, in the computer system for Taher. And then it got taken care of. So I know Gary, the food service director through Taher, spent most of his day on the phone dealing with, or working with families on setting up payment plans and making sure their accounts were correct.
Does Mike get to bill that to his work to them?
Yeah, no kidding.
That's a great question, so.
So Jeremy, the question I have then is, if Wallace Flanagan's thing goes through and every child gets a free breakfast and free lunch, what's that gonna do to our food service program? Cause that's gonna increase number of students probably going through. Are we gonna have enough spots? Are we gonna have to add another lunch period? You could probably have to add staff in the morning for breakfast. You know, I mean, I'm just, have we even, if it does go through, which, you know, the Democrats wanted this to start this year yet.
Right.
They want to push it through before the school year's done. How are we gonna accommodate the possible influx of more students eating? Have we talked to Taher about that, staffing wise, and even our own schedule? Because I know there's times that students, by the time they get through, they get maybe 5 minutes to eat, you know, and then all of a sudden they have to head out. So I'm
Right.
just asking the question, have we looked at that? Do we have anything? And then the second part of that is, since they're paying for it, isn't that gonna increase our fund balance even more? And then we're already having to try to spend it down because we're so high.
So, yeah, these are great questions, and unfortunately, I don't have those answers at this
Yeah.
time. With this proposal coming out, we knew that food service was gonna be a hot topic. So, I have not met with Taher since this came out to discuss it with them. It is on our agenda to meet, we meet monthly, so when I do meet with them, this will be part of that question of, okay, this is going to increase that kids eating lunch if it's free.
But last
Well,
year,
yeah,
weren't they
the
free?
2 years, the last 2 years.
2
they've been
years. So
free.
what, I mean, how is the last 2 years different from before COVID hit?
That's what I was gonna
I would
ask.
tell you that I don't know how many, I know of one off the top of my head that doesn't eat lunch because they can't afford it. And
The
their
last
pa-
2 years though, too?
No, they would have ate lunch the last 2 years,
Right.
but they don't now.
So the question is though, in 2020 and 2021, what were the numbers then compared to this year?
I can't answer that, I'd have to look back. But we were using all paper, or all styrofoam plates for the past 2 years also, and not,
Yep.
yep. And we didn't always have
That's
kids in the
true.
building.
That's true.
It was an every other day thing for the high school for one of the years.
Yeah.
You could look at least last year.
Yes,
the
we
number
can
of
look at
students.
last year's numbers.
Yeah, that'd kind of give you
Mhm.
an idea.
You would know the elementary for 2 years, because we have them in the building for the most part.
Right.
Didn't have donuts last Wednesday, my kids. were
No,
upset.
believe me, I heard.
It's one day you don't mess with.
Yeah.
That's right.
Donut Wednesday,
Mhm.
so. Dishwasher, I talked about that at the beginning of the month. Matt did reach out to Hobart to get more of a breakdown, to get a better understanding of it all. They've not gotten back to him, as of this morning. So once he has more information, he'll, put that out and give us that information. And then the last thing I have is, high school is getting ready to start their registration to the modified block schedule. So the 8-period day with some of the classes in there are blocks, so they are 90-minute classes. So with that, we'll need to hire an additional elementary FIAD teacher. So, just wanted to remind everybody that
Next year.
for next year, it would be adding a FIAD teacher. So,
When they do start the registration for that, is there gonna be a communication that goes out to the parents? Because I know getting a sheet of paper that has all the classes listed, it was very hard to discern which ones the kids should be taking. So just a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit more guidance on what they can and can't register for.
okay. Sounds good.
So when we go to that we're going to that modified 8-period schedule. So then all the advisory stuff is gonna go away. We won't have advisory in the morning. I'm talking like the 8:20 to
Yeah.
Dog time.
8:55
Yep, the
or
dog
whatever.
time, yep.
Okay.
There will still be religion on Wednesdays. What the state statute says is, we have to allow the kids to go to religion, but we don't have to stop instruction. So, as of right now, they would miss part of their class every other week, because it's still an odd even schedule. Or they'd miss part of a class every week, but it would be, every other week would be the class.
But we're not
We're not-
modifying our schedule.
We're
like we
not
used to.
modifying our schedule.
Okay.
This is a parent choice to have
Yeah.
them go to the religion. And we looked at statute very closely for that, of saying, okay, we have to allow it, but we don't have to stop instruction, so.
And from what I remember, because I actually talked to a lawyer about this, because they talked about it up at MSBA. This was 7, 8, well, I've been on the board for a while, so maybe 8, 10 years ago. And they were surprised that we were still adjusting our schedule at that time. They said, you guys are one of 5 schools in the state that's doing it. So, with that though, the one question that I do have is, if we're not modifying the schedule, what happens if a teacher's given a test on that day? Because we can't ask the teachers then go, okay, you can't give tests on Wednesday afternoons. You know, I don't feel that that would be right. If the students the parents want their students to go out for religion, then they'll have to make up that test. But then when is that gonna be done? If there is a test, I'm just saying.
Probably be
If-
like any other day when they're sick
I
or
would,
something. right?
yeah, I would agree with that. It'd be like any other day. It'd be up to the student to make arrangements with the teacher to come in and make up that
Okay.
test, whether it's before school on Thursday or after school on Wednesday, whatever would fit into that teacher's schedule.
Okay.
So with the elimination of the advisory, are they still having like grade checks and that kind of thing? Would that be with their first period teacher instead, or is that not something that will be continued?
At this point, it's something that wouldn't be continued, but I don't know how effective it is being used right now either.
Right.
Okay.
I know there are some teachers doing it, but but from my experience, I would say that a majority of the teachers aren't doing the grade checks.
And then other communication, like Alice training and some of those other things that were
Right, those were,
meant to be done in dog time
right.
would, okay.
The kids still have an advisor, right? They would still maintain an advisor that they could talk to if they need to, or is that going away too?
That would go away because of the
Okay.
social workers
Oh, they would just work with them? Okay,
or the high school counselor.
okay.
Anything else?
All right. Now we'll go on to the budget information, enrollment update, and historical cash balances.
Enrollment, we're K-12, we budgeted for 675, we're at 675, so we're right there where we budgeted. If we happen to see a decrease in enrollment, we can adjust our budget also. But right now, we're right there where we did budget this year.
So. Oh, okay, got it, yeah.
So historic cash value, or cash balance, right where we typically fall, maybe up a little bit actually, but part of that could be the bond that we have with the construction project, because we're finishing up our last few payments on that.
Any questions on either of those?
Yes.
Mhm.
Can you just remind me how cash balance versus historic bank balance, how those two are, why they're not the same? Or just how they're related?
I wish Matt was here.
I do, I wish
It's
Matt was here
confusing.
also. It is confusing, and he talked about it at our budget meeting.
We can table my question until the
Yeah.
budget meeting
Yeah,
or
we
something,
might
that's
have to wait
fine.
till he's here to explain it again.
I just see
Right.
it's substantially different is all.
Yeah.
Right, so, yeah, let's, what I can do, I can have Matt call you, and then I'll have him explain it to the full board again at our next meeting.
That's fine. I can wait till the whole board gets it.
Okay,
It's fine. He doesn't need to call me.
But yes, good question. And then just so you're aware, the numbers on there are from each year, that same point in time, like
Right.
May of each year, so.
Right.
Any other questions? All right, do we have any committee reports?
anything from MSBA you or Sherry want to talk about?
Well, we talked about, I did ask about the MSHSL, but I think, Wendy, you sent something out to the whole board anyway, so that was already answered by what you'd said, so. Apparently, we don't really have a lot of votes ever happening, so it's only maybe once in a while that'll happen.
And when you say once in a while,
Like
Like
once every 5 years,
5
maybe?
to 10 years, it sounded like.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the board members says, I've been on it for 8 years, and he thinks he only voted once ever
Yeah.
as a board member,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I think Tim Burke wanted that group back again from me.
Yeah. He
You
did
can
so
have it, I'll
much.
let you take the reins. Maybe you'll get
We're gonna
lucky.
do a lot of good stuff.
Was it well attended? Or was
Yeah.
the numbers down?
No, I thought it was good. Like, the round tables on Thursday were just ridiculously full,
Packed,
and
yeah.
you couldn't hear anything, so I didn't get much out of those, but, and we couldn't go to the second session, because we drove back to make it back for some events, wrestling, and I coached bowling that night, so, so went to a couple, the first keynote speaker was very good. I wish we could, like, get him in here and speak to our kids and stuff, but I don't think that would happen, but, I went to a couple on, like, food, like, the farm to table, type of, session, like a harvest of the month, food thing. I know we had talked to, you and I had talked about the, possibly if Owatonna has their, greenhouse yet, that maybe we could purchase that from them and start utilizing that a little bit more. Living in Minnesota, it's a little hard
Where
to
did we put it?
have a garden.
Down by the baseball field,
Oh,
behind the bus barn.
gotcha.
So, what ones did you go to again?
I went to How to Behave as a Board Member, so that was very interesting. I learned a lot in that one. About self-evaluation of the board.
Yes, that's right. So, what was the one we got, they would do the self-evaluation and
The strategic
strategic plan
Strategic
together.
plan together.
So, yeah, because we were talking about how we should work on our strategic plan again, and I've been wanting to do one of the self-evaluation sessions from MSBA. And so when we went to the strategic plan session, they said you can do them both together. So I think that's something that we might look into for, doing strategic planning and, board self-evaluation at the same time. And then, I can't think of, I wasn't prepared for this part. I should go back and look at
Some
my
cool
notes.
exhibits set up of what we could potentially get for our students as learning opportunities.
Ooh, that anatomy table.
Yes.
Oh, that thing was sweet.
There was this anatomy table that they literally took a picture of a real cadaver inside and out and everything. And it's all interactive, and you can slice it, you can have all skin, you can all the way go down to just bone, nerves, you can look at pets, or not necessarily pets, but animals and various other different things. And get, if you wanna see the way the blood goes through your heart, push a button and you'll be on a roller coaster watching it go through. So you can spin it and everything.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet.
It comes with a price tag.
I was gonna
It
say,
does.
it's
But they
probably
do
not
say
in our
that there's
budget.
grants available.
There
too.
are grants, and I've reached
Yep.
out to the company and have not heard back yet to see what grants they have available, but they come at about a $80,000 price tag.
Let's table that.
So, yeah, it was a good conference. So, any questions? All right, we will move on to 7, approval of the consent agenda. As always, we can pull anything out that anybody would like. Anybody have any clarifying questions or like to pull anything out? Yep.
Just clarifying question on the personnel staff changes. As those things are noted, like step changes, that's pretty much for information at this time only. There's no ability to affect anything on that.
No, it's just that they've done graduate work in order to make a lane change, which increases their pay.
Right,
So it
so again,
does-
it's informative
It's
for us.
informative for you.
It's nothing else.
No,
Yeah. And just so everybody knows, I did ask Jeremy if on the expenditures, if it is possible to put a brief description on, like, I don't want anybody to add anything that's not already there, but if there is a brief description, if that could be added to the expenditures. Because a lot of times we have like individual people that you might not know why they're getting paid. A lot of them are refs, I know, but I just thought it might be kind of helpful to have some of that there. Any other questions? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Jenny Wilson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Old business, final readings and approval of new policies with substantial changes. Any questions on those, or do you have any comments before we go through them?
The only comment that I would have is in policy 515, protection and privacy of pupil records. Under, what is it? 3, Roman numeral 3 definitions, it'd be in D, directory information. It tells us, the second to last sentence says, that directory information also includes the name, addresses, and telephone numbers of student parents. So if somebody were to come into the school and ask for the name, address, and telephone number of a student's parents, we would be giving that out to them. I guess what I'm saying is I don't know that I'm comfortable giving that information out, because if it's somebody that found out that
Yeah.
they're living here, but there's an order of protection against them, we don't know that, but yet we're gonna give out their address and their telephone number of where they live. I don't know that I'm comfortable with,
And this one's an MSBA.
that's an MSBA, and if you look down at the notes, the school board can make the decision of what they want in that or don't want in it. So, in reading through this further, that was the one thing that stuck out to me as like, I don't know that I'm comfortable with saying, okay, here are the names, addresses, and telephone numbers of parents if you request them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So are you recommending striking that out?
My recommendation would be to strike that out.
I'm in favor.
Any,
Or is that what you're asking for right now?
Yes.
I'm in favor of it. Striking it.
were you gonna say something, Kevin? No?
Just, so, has our policy, is this, I see the red line,
Mhm.
so the red line are the changes?
Yes, if it's red line, if it's red line, that's
Yep.
a
MSBA's
MSBA's
recommended.
recommendation.
So why are they recommending adding that? If it hasn't been in there since, again, policy was modified, in previous years, why are they suggesting adding that?
When I asked Terry Morrow, who is one of the lawyers for MSBA,
Mhm.
he couldn't give me a good answer on that. They give the lawyers new stuff to read each month, or if there's a state statute that affects it. But when I asked for this particular information, he couldn't give me an answer on that. And just thinking about it and discussion with our admin team, it was one of those where it's like, not convinced that's a great thing for us to add at this time.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. Unless MSBA can give a compelling reason why.
Right.
Or could you add something about with consent from said parents?
I don't
That's a
know if
good
you,
point.
I don't know if you wanna do that, cause then you.
How would you
then we
manage
ha-
that?
True.
we
We have to
have
manage
we
it.
have to
Good
manage
point.
it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And is
True.
that good for a year? How long is, so.
True.
I would
Good
say
point.
either strike it or you put it in, nothing in between.
I'm okay getting rid of it.
Do we have the form that goes with it? For them to fill out? Requesting information? I'm just looking at MSBA. So do we, that if we do have a form that goes with our policy to request information, that we have, remove it from that form as well?
Right.
Right. Yes, I don't remember making a change to their form.
I don't see that there was one.
Did you add that red line
But
to
I don't
question
even,
it?
No,
think so.
That was
MSBA
there?
put it in
Okay,
there, but when
okay.
I reread the policy, was reading through it, it was like, man, that just doesn't seem
Okay.
quite right to me, yeah.
But if we look up above, it says that the record contains, it includes the student's name, address, electronic mail address, phone number. So it's saying that it already includes the student's phone number, but then down below, it also includes the name, address, telephone number of the student's parents. So even if you strike what's in red, at least by my reading, it still includes the student's phone number. Which again is deemed to not be, an invasion of privacy giving that out. So I'm afraid if you're trying to do more as far as protecting that, you're gonna have to revise more than just, it also includes the name, address, and telephone. To be honest, I'd rather have the parents'
Students.
numbers
Then the
Than
than
the
students.
anything to
students.
do with the student.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, but the students, I mean, how, like my daughter, she doesn't have a number. She's got my home phone number, so it's not like, I don't know, even Rhett when he never gave out his personal cell number.
In our, if we were to look, how many kids have added them to the Infinite Campus system, I bet you'd be surprised.
My
Because
kids
when
would
they
be-
want the call, when school's gonna be closed or something along those lines, they want that call.
Hmm.
I know both my kids had it in there.
Really?
Mine's in there as well.
Maybe we should postpone this one indefinitely and talk about it again.
Absolutely, I'm
I think
all
we
for
should-
that.
I think we
'Cause
should
based
all
on this
review this a
paragraph-
little bit more.
Based on this paragraph, we can make pretty much
Yeah.
any changes we want to,
Mhm. Cause,
that
yeah,
part of it.
so we can postpone this one indefinitely. It was just something I thought, reading through it and thinking about it
Yeah,
more and talking
no,
with
good
our group,
point.
that we should discuss it as a group, so.
So, quick question though, and not to drag this thing out. If somebody comes in off the street and asks for data requests, we log that, we get their information and everything, and do we do anything with that? Cause I've never come up and asked for, hey, I need Jeremy Erler's information, cause I want, his kid goes to school here. Well, I'm just wondering, what do we do with it?
Have we ever
I
had
mean,
a request?
do we run a background check before we hand out the information to know that they're not a criminal, or do we just arbitrarily, you ask for it, we have to give it to you?
If it's in our directory information and they ask for it, we have to give it to them.
That's why, yeah, I think we should review this and
Okay.
strike out as much as we can that is not needed. If any of it.
I'd be interested in knowing what other schools are doing with this specific
Right, and I
language.
can look
Yeah.
at, and talk with other schools about it.
And somebody may be able to help explain why there's value to having it in versus out, or if they're just like, yeah, nobody needs to know any of that. You as a school board should take as much of that out so that anything you give is not, there's not much there, or they say, no, there's a lot of value to you having the power to be able to give that out for whatever,
Yep.
law enforcement, I don't know what it would be, but I think somebody will know better why we should or shouldn't strike it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I say we do some more digging into this one and We'll talk about it another time. Do we need a motion on that then?
Yes.
Okay, so, do we have a motion for policy 515?
I'll make a motion to indefinitely table policy 515.
Postpone indefinitely. Yep.
Postpone.
Postpone indefinitely.
That's Tim Elke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And that's Sherry Dashner. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 6-0. Policy 603. Any questions or comments on that? My only question was, when MSBA requires these, committees, do they give more than just that to help you actually start these committees?
Nope. This is what we get.
That's not much information on how to run those committees or what direction they're providing
Right.
or wanting in that. Okay. Cause that's all brand new.
Mhm.
That's the one that we assigned a
Yep.
representative for, right? Okay. Is there, yeah, I guess you'll have to figure it out and hopefully somebody at MSBA can help explain it if you have any questions.
Guide us through
on
it.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve policy 603.
That's Sherry Dashner. Do we have a second?
Second.
And that's Kevin Bourne. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 6-0. Policy 604. Any questions or comments?
And the biggest change with this policy is that we have to give parents the right to review our curriculum.
I do have a question on like policies like this where, like, for instance, the college and career planning section. Do we, like, does Anna get this and review it to make sure that we are doing everything? Like, do we do this on a periodic basis to, because we've had a lot of counselors change over in the past few years that I'm just wondering if we're actually doing everything that we're supposed to be doing.
We review it, however, as close as we should, probably not. So something we can add to our plates as we move forward.
Because I noticed like that top one, it says no later than 9th grade, they're supposed to have that in place, which I don't know if that means the beginning of 9th grade or by the end of 9th grade, but, I wonder if we actually do all that. So,
No, it's a great,
Something-
great question.
something to maybe when we get some of these policies that we have the person that would most likely be in charge of certain sections, have them review it to
Mhm.
make sure they're putting it in place.
And you haven't created a procedure yet for it, have you?
No.
Not really, okay.
Any other questions? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve policy 604.
That's Tim Elke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Burke. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 6-0. 8B, second readings of new policy with substantial changes. Any questions or comments there? The only question I had was the instruction and curriculum. It says aligns with district policy 616. Does that's the person we added, so do we also need policy 603? Is that where that's coming from as well?
They're two different policies.
Right, but that advisory committee was in 603, right? That was that new committee?
Yeah.
I was just wondering if that needs to be added to that table. Scroll down, is this 213?
No, this is
Oh.
616.
If you go to 213 again,
213?
or,
Yeah.
yeah, 213, the one that
Where
we're
it shows the
reviewing.
committees.
It says in the table, under the instruction and curriculum, it says aligns with district policy 616. Is that where our representative is, or is that somewhere else? Or this is a different committee?
This is a different committee.
Okay, so that's not the one where
No.
603 was added, okay,
Oh,
then nothing needs to change. Any other questions? All
and
right.
that's a second reading, so that won't get approved till next week,
Right.
or next meeting.
All right, 8C, final reading or approval of the following policies without substantial changes. Any questions on any of those?
These are the policies that MSBA has made changes to. Were just maybe a grammatical change or a change, there's a statute that may have changed names, so they made that change in the policies. So, like it says, they're non-substantial. They don't change the meaning of the policy. Therefore, it only takes one reading.
And the only thing I thought of, again, was the wellness one. After reading that, I was like, I wonder if like the school nurse should, I think they're the ones kind of in charge of that, right?
Mhm.
Should
Yep,
kind of go.
and she reviews that.
She did, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, just make sure that we are following everything in there too, so, awesome. All right, any questions on any of those? Or I guess we'll go through each one first. Policy 532, any questions? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
That's Kevin Bourne to approve, I assume, right?
That is correct.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Burke. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 6-0. Policy 533, any questions? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve policy 533.
That's Tim Elke. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Go ahead.
Sherry Dashner. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 6-0. Policy 601, any questions or comments on that? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve policy 601.
That's Joni Olson. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Burke. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 6-0. Policy 602. Any questions on that? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve policy 602.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
Yes,
That's
so
Kevin.
moved.
That's Kevin Bourne. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 6-0. Discussion and approval of growth operators human resources contract work proposal.
I think it was November, I brought a proposal to the board to do a human resources assessment for the school. And then they would go in and look at our job descriptions, review and benchmarking, and then also do a comparable work study for us. The comparable work study is something we need to get done before next year, because it has to be submitted again. Gets submitted to the state every 3 years, so it'll get submitted again. The last one that was submitted had some very noticeable mistakes, such as our business manager was listed as a female, some jobs that were still put together, the AD community ed director were still put together as one job. So that's one that needs to get done along, and that would be nice to have that information prior to negotiations starting later this spring. In order to do a good job with the comparable work study, we should go in and look at our job descriptions, make sure they're matching exactly what the people are doing for their jobs. At that time, the board asked if this was the only bid we got, or if we got other bids. Matt, Wendy, and I sat down, worked on, sent a proposal out to 3 other companies to get bids. 2 of the 3 refused or declined to do a bid. The third one was Baker Tilly, and they had some personnel changes over Christmas break. It used to be Dr. Smith. Then Lori took over for him. Lori since has moved on to Owatonna School District. We were not made aware of that until last week. We did ask them to bid it. They declined to bid it at this time. However, they did say that this dollar amount they felt like was in the right ballpark of, and I know it's a big range from 19,000 to 27,000. But it all depends on how much work they feel like they need to do. In order to get this done in time for negotiations, which will be starting early to mid-April into May, we need this growth operators to get moving on this. But questions about this?
So when does it need to be submitted for the 3-year? Set negotiations aside for a second.
Yep.
Where are we at in the 3-year requirement?
This is year 2, so it'll get done, submitted again next year.
So we could put it off a year, do it in a year, and still be within our submitting one every 3 years?
For our comparable work,
Yes,
yes.
okay.
I would say yes to that, but it will make negotiations a lot more difficult if we don't have that information, correct information.
I think I know what direction this will show things, that putting it off a year, just in my opinion, may not be a bad thing, because right now, things are out of control. And in a year, I think the economy's gonna pull back, and things will be more tame, if you will. But if you do an assessment right now, it's gonna show substantial increases across the board. So I'm just looking at it again, depending upon what your role is in negotiations. This is likely gonna support spending a lot more money, just so you know.
That's a good point.
It is a good point, but I'd also tell you, we have a number of staff that aren't paid what they should be paid. According
Understand.
to
Yep.
the little bit of research I have done.
Yep.
And if we're not gonna do this, we have to be willing to lose good staff, because they'll leave.
Sure.
But we've kind of done this in the past when negotiations have come up, not doing this comparable worth, where we go to other school districts and we find out what they're paying and our size and stuff like that. I still have some of the stuff that has come back from when Kurt was here and when Bill was here, and even when, I can't think of his name, the intern.
Dick Orcutt.
Dick. So just because they come here and say this position should be paid, I don't know, whatever, $500 more, doesn't mean we have to either.
True.
You know, so it's kind of, I feel it'd be okay to go ahead right now. They may come back and, you know what, it may be one person in a position here that goes, well, so-and-so's this, well, we can go, well, so-and-so in this school district's only getting paid this, and you're getting paid more than them. So it's, we've been doing this, well, at least I have now, negotiations for 14 years, and that's kind of the way it's been going. I'm okay with moving forward with this, to get it done and just see where it lays. And then, like I said, then when we do the negotiations, you know, we have to decide where our boundaries, because we can't compete with some of the bigger schools around here, and that's just the way it is. It's for the certified and non-certified altogether.
And I'm guessing this one they will take that into consideration, looking at the size of the schools to compare
Yeah,
them to.
that's what they'll do is,
Yeah.
they'll do a comparison within our school, and then they'll do a comparison to other schools our size.
Yeah.
But the one problem that you do find is that we have some positions, which I still don't completely understand why I have 2 job descriptions or titles, and a lot of other school districts don't. So now, how do you determine comparable worth?
Yeah, it's hard when it's not apples to apples.
Yep.
Yeah. it
So,
is.
and I'm just saying, you will have some of that come in to where, I mean, we can look at certain things that we've talked about in the past, and some school district has this, we have that, and, yeah, so, it's fun.
It's not an exact science, that's for sure.
In your plan to kind of, like, this is a one-time thing, and then you're planning to put something in place to keep
This would be,
this
yes, to keep this going, so we're
updated,
not
so we're not-
doing this every 10 years. It's, no, we're doing this in ongoing, okay, have we changed positions? What have we done as a school in order to keep this going, rather than, okay, now we haven't done this for 10 years, we're gonna go out and spend $30,000 on it, when we can spend a little bit of money each year to make sure everything's updated and going the way it should be.
It's kind of revamping our whole HR, right? Kind of-
Yes.
Yeah.
What
that
package are
needs
you,
it.
oh, sorry, what
Sorry.
package are you recommending?
I mean, for the first one?
Out of all of them, you know, it's got the grand total, or are you just recommending going with the first one?
I think everything, right?
Yeah.
Everything,
It's
yep.
everything.
Well, the package is 19 to 27.
That's
It's a range because they don't know
Oh,
they don't
gotcha,
know
my
exactly
bad.
how many
My
hours it's
bad,
gonna take
sorry.
each one of them.
it could only be 19,000, but it could be
Could be up to 27 too.
Can they go
Gotcha,
over
sorry.
that?
Not more than a certain percentage over it.
Not without a change order.
Yeah, that's why I was like,
But they can come to you with a change order and go, here's where we're at.
Right,
okay.
I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a fixed bid,
right.
you know, no matter what, it's consulting.
But it's something that, just like we did with construction, we'll be tracking as we go of, okay, where are we at dollar-wise, because
Right.
we have a limit too.
And it can be written in the contract that they have to meet certain milestones, and if they don't by a certain time, then.
Yeah. The research I've done, and Wendy and I reached out to a couple of the other companies they've worked with, and they have nothing but praise to say about growth operators and the follow-up work that they've done. When the job was done, growth operators continued to check in, make sure everything was going all right, and
Nice.
to do those, to take that next step, so.
Do you think the 20 unique job descriptions fits our organization? Is that enough?
When we count it, that's close. That's
Okay.
right in that ballpark.
All right, so
And-
you provided that,
Yep, we
kind of that
provided
number. Got
some
it.
base numbers for them.
Yeah, I think this might be something that we probably needed for a little while, because like that, when what was that, the pay equity report, during last negotiations, I had asked, somebody at MSBA about that, and they're like, oh, you should just look at your pay equity report, and that's where we found that. It said our business manager was female, our AD and community ed director were one person, so that's all been way off for
Sure.
quite a few years now. So I think it needs to be revised and fixed.
And the report would be public.
Yes. And it follows the state system that's in place.
All right. Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Were you gonna ask a question, or, okay, I'll make a motion to approve growth operators, HR contract work proposal.
That's Sherry Dashner. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And that's Tim Elke. Any further discussion?
So are you approving it up to the 27,000? Is that
I-
what the motion is that we would be allowed to go up to the 27, Sherry?
Yes.
I would think so, right? Because,
As-
yeah,
as
they
stated in the
can't-
quote.
Yeah. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 6-0. All right, new business. Thank you for waiting.
Sorry, Mr.
We
Kehoe.
probably should have put you first on the agenda.
6:15. Told you.
Sorry, I talked too much
Yeah,
tonight.
you was gonna go, that's what we never say that.
I was gonna go to wrestling tonight.
I know.
I guess I'll watch it online.
Okay, so thanks for taking me in on short notice. It kind of came from a conversation. Jenna Shanerock and I are doing like a mentor-mentee thing through the, I can't remember, the Seagull, I can't remember what it stands for, something Great Lakes Literacy. So basically, just meeting with somebody from that organization, and we were just kind of talking through things that we're trying to do in the school year, and she mentioned something that would, for the spring, that might be kind of fun to do with students, is called the Bio Blitz, where you go out and take a look at species and catalog them and everything. And so we thought maybe trying to get the kids out around here, but then it might be fun I've always wanted to look for excuses to take the kids up to the North Shore for a trip. So I'm hoping to do that. And so my plan would be to have kids in advisory, or not, during dog time, during the club dog time, the kids that signed up for it. And I think there are 10 kids, pretty much all 7th and 8th graders, but a couple older kids that might drop out of it once they see the rest of them are 7th and 8th graders. I don't know. But that we would spend third quarter planning the trip and then take it sometime in April or May. When we take it would depend on what I want to do is stay overnight at the Great Lakes Aquarium in Duluth. They have a program that you can kind of camp out in the aquarium overnight and do that. And again, I'm happy that it's a small group of kids, because I think for transportation, maybe we could just take the school van or the school van, school car, like combination, just to save money there and just to do a small thing, because I don't have the energy to plan a big trip to Costa Rica or anything. But, so basically that's what I'm asking for, is just approval to take a small group of kids on an overnight trip. And I guess as far as like, again, don't have the exact days because I want the kids to look into that. And thinking either do like a Friday into a Saturday, so just miss one day of school, or maybe like a Thursday into a Friday, so miss 2 days of school tops. So kind of depending on what we can get for the aquarium.
Do you have any idea, like, cost-wise?
So for the aquarium, I think there is, I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was around $40 a student, but I think it was like a $700 minimum. I'm guessing with a small group that we'd be paying the $700 minimum for the aquarium. Transportation, I guess it depends if we can keep it small where we can take school vehicles, that should be pretty low cost, I would think, versus if it got big and we had to get a bus, that would be very expensive. So yeah, I'm looking at, probably like $1,000 or under, spread against 10 kids, so $100. And, again, we'll have the kids figure out how do you want to pay for that,
Does the cost of the aquarium include meals and stuff when you're up there, or
boy,
that program?
I think there was like a breakfast. I think we'd have to, I guess, have meals on top of that. So maybe a little bit, maybe $1,000 then plus what kids would need for meals. But again, we could do something like, you know, having kids contribute to like a picnic, lunches and things there, and doing this, so, yeah. Sorry. I'm so used to, like, last time I did this, I had like tons of money from, just raising money with the Pie Mile Run, so I never had to worry about it. We just had the money to do stuff, I guess, so.
So are you looking to do fundraising, or are you looking to have?
Maybe some small things, and I think that, to do, because certainly I don't want to do anything big, but I want the kids to look into, what would be different ways of funding it, because just to empower them, that whole like global citizen, critical thinker, right, kind of aspect of stuff. And it could be things, maybe could do like 3D printing service and print things for people and some for, whatever, just like little things, and try to do it that way. There's probably some other funding sources I can get to, because as part of this mentor-mentee program, I do have access to a $300 mini grant, that I could get, apply for that, to get that. We're also doing microplastics, might look into that. I'm part of a kind of group with some other high school teachers and university researchers. And so they got a grant to fund a study of looking into doing citizen science, with high school looking at microplastics in lakes. And they did give me like $5,000 from that. I spent most of it already on sensors and things for the classroom. But I think that was $4,700, so I guess I could ask for another like $250 from that out of the $5,000. So
Is this for like the dog time clubs? What is this one actually called then?
yeah, so it's just like during dog time, I think I called it like STEM leadership or
Okay.
something is what I did. Thought it would get kids interested, like, oh, be a leader kind of thing. And again, I think too, and it might work out well having the young kids doing it, because I think having them learn how to do the BioBlitz stuff, like how to do the classification of like the species with that. There's like an iNaturalist app that they can do. And then that gets logged for like actual ecologists to take a look at that data, like how many things were seen in different parts of the state. So training them on that, and then like if Jenna was going to then do a similar activity in her classroom afterwards, and these would kind of be like her go-to, like, hey, these kids have already learned how to do this. And then just also like, if we learned how to do some water sampling, so then we're doing water sampling in different classes, again, they can kind of help be like, hey, I already know how to do this, and can be leaders among the classroom too, so.
So are you
Sounds fun.
envisioning this to be like a yearly type thing? I mean, because like we just talked about the
Dog time
scheduling now
going away.
going with the advisory time going away.
Yeah.
Or is this like a one time or not sure?
I definitely, it'd be nice to, I'm hoping to start here and grow in it. And if we get these kids, like interested, and maybe like this was something they get excited about, then having this be something that meets, in the mornings before school next year might be something. Now they already have a vision in their head of what it could be, versus trying to start something like that now and telling kids like, hey, meet before school. So I am hoping it maybe turns into something. I would love to make it something bigger. Like a couple summers ago went to Lake Michigan and got to go out on a schooner on the lake for, several hours. And so it's called like Inland Seas School Ship Program. And so they like have dorms out there that you bring kids to, and they put you up and everything. And so I'd love to take a group out to Lake Michigan to do that, but that's a much bigger trip, because it, getting over to the other side of Lake Michigan is not a small endeavor, right? Because it seems like it's close, but there's a lake in the way, and going across it's pretty expensive. So you got to go around. But yeah, so I'm hoping to make it into, something that's bigger.
And just some ideas for funding in the future too. I don't know if the Bulldog backers would
Yep.
help fund some of it, but don't forget about the Elysian American Legion. They do gambling at the Goose, and I'm
Okay.
sure they have a lot of money because a lot of that money is supposed to
Yeah.
stay within Janesville, so.
And I'm sure, like, from your standpoint, because I know as a board, you have to be very fiscally conservative, and this is something you have to be concerned with and everything else. I have found that I usually find money for the things that I want to do.
Yeah.
I've,
Resourceful.
like I said, I've already spent $6,000 of money that was not the schools this year on stuff for the kids. And I did not try that hard looking for it. So it's out there, especially for science things. It's
No,
there.
I'm not worried about it. I just giving you some other ideas in case you did want to do something bigger,
Yep.
that those are options too. So,
Yeah.
Sounds cool.
Yeah. Any, so do we need to approve a certain amount, or just that it's okay to do this? And
Since he'd be doing the fundraising, would we?
He'd be doing the fundraising. I'd still set a certain amount in case the fundraising doesn't come through. So, an amount you're comfortable with. So it'd be an approval to continue start and continue the planning process with the school approving up to a certain amount. And you guys can decide on that amount.
Mr. Kehoe, what, worst case scenario, again, assuming zero fundraising, what would be that number that you believe that it would cost you to go?
I can't imagine that it would cost more than $2,000.
And you got how many kids?
I think when I was just looking at my roster for this quarter, and I believe that there was 10, I think, signed up.
So
or-
what
or
if
9.
others catch wind of this? Are you gonna allow more? Are you gonna stop that they had to have been with you since day one?
Well, and that there was some kids a question like, what if we didn't join the club? Can we still go on the trip? And I think one, just because I wanted, again, first year of doing something like this, I want to keep it small. I don't want to have to worry about like the cost of a coach bus or, those types of things. I'm just don't feel prepared for doing that. And so I think I will just we can certainly look at, okay, what's the most that we can carry between the van and the car and like one chaperone driving one vehicle and one chaperone driving the other, and like that's our like limit. Other than that, I guess I don't know if the school can rent a van or something for trips. I don't know if that's something that can happen or not, because that would definitely be cheaper than a bus. But
Dane's
got an RV.
Big enough without having a
special license.
right, yeah. So
Right.
I think that's basically what we would set the limit at, and then we can look at if this goes well and kids are interested, we can certainly start planning further in advance for something like next year where it would be a bigger thing and look into
2 nights,
buses and-
3, possibly 2 nights, 3 days max.
I think just one night and then 2 days. And so I just said, depending on when we can get the aquarium, like maybe we'd have to be gone 2 days of school. We would stay over like a weekday night.
Oh,
But,
gotcha.
if we could get it for like a Friday night,
back
I think I
Friday
would
night.
probably, I don't like planning for subs, so I guess I would rather go up on a Friday and come back on a Saturday
So
personally.
you would, with the 10 people, you would need yourself and possibly another person, or is it if you find transportation, you would be enough to cover the 10 kids?
I think with the number it is, because the van, I think it's 10 passengers, but I don't think kids are supposed to sit in the front seat. So I
Right.
think that makes it 8 kids that
8
can hold.
kids.
So I think I would need a second adult.
So, and that would have to be a school employee or not?
to drive the vehicle.
Because then you're looking,
Yeah.
because then you're
Drive.
looking at another substitute
Yeah.
possible teacher then.
Probably maybe a paraprofessional.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
can get one, but then
Mhm.
you have to find somebody for that person too,
Right,
so.
right.
Yeah, okay.
We do have gifted and talented money that we get each year. That.
What is that, like $200?
It's not a large amount by any means, but the intent behind gifted and talented is for small groups such as this to be able to go and extend their learning. So there is a possibility of having some money from that also.
Can we just approve him to start with the process and then him come back with his details later? Just like a little, like to get it going so he can do the investigation, how many people and all that stuff, just
Yeah.
let him have it, and then he can come back?
He can,
'Cause
but I'd want to
versus-
get,
Versus working out all the details and talking through
Right.
hypotheticals here, I'm just
right,
saying.
that's why I'm saying,
Well, so we could just set a
Say-
number.
Yes.
If you're only comfortable with 1,000, we say that we would approve it, up to $1,000, and he has to fundraise the rest, or we go right to the 2,000 and he'll reduce it as much as he can, probably to 0. But what are we comfortable, but I would do that. I would approve it with some dollar amount. He doesn't have to come back if we're comfortable. I'm all for these type of things.
Yeah.
So am
I
I.
mean, when I've got somebody, a staff member that's willing to
Go
take
above
their
and
own
beyond.
time to do these things, I'm highly supportive of these.
I agree.
The one thing I will say though is whatever we do here,
We
you're
have
gonna
to
have a
do the
lot of other
same.
clubs then, they're gonna come in
Yep.
and they're gonna request the same courtesy, same, a dollar amounts and stuff for that too, cause we've seen it through the Bulldog Backers Association and stuff, so it's just something to think about. Not saying it's gonna happen, but it could, so, and we don't budget for this.
Can you say with the stipulation that you do try for your own fundraising? But we approve a certain amount. I'm
not
okay with that.
not to exceed.
Not to exceed
I would
$2,000.
say other than the cost of the sub and the van car, I would not ask the school to pay a dime. I mean, I don't see any reason why the school should be paying any money for this other than, my sub and car van. And so,
I agree with what you're saying. However, I don't want that to hold anything back either. If the funding doesn't come, I'd like to see our kids, the students get
Yes.
this
and
opportunity.
I promise you that you don't have to worry about it.
So let me ask you this
Thank
question.
you.
If we would approve something, say at $1,000, so that we're not setting a standard of 2,000 for 10
Right.
kids, would you be comfortable with us allotting $1,000 for what you want to do?
Yep.
So I guess I would make the motion to approve the science club field trip with Mr. Kehoe with a total expenditure not exceeding $1,000.
All right.
I'd
that's
second
Kevin-
that.
Kevin Bourne and Tim Burke. Do we have any further discussion?
It's just a roll call.
Question?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think it through because the way I interpret that is if all of a sudden it comes to 1,200, then he can't do it. That's the way I'm
Well-
interpreting that motion.
So he either
So-
will have to find other ways to get the
So I
200
don't know if
because
we
he's
have to
not getting it from us.
Right, I just want to make sure that if we have to have that as a stipulation with the motion, so. I'm just,
I think it is because it's a not to exceed,
Right.
Yeah.
Not to exceed 1,000.
not to exceed $1,000.
that the school will pay.
Right.
Mhm.
Yep. All right, any other questions? All right, if not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 6-0.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
How do
Thank
I
you.
sign up for the trip?
Thank you. Yeah, right?
I guess if you want to drive yourself, you're welcome.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Mr. Kehoe.
Have a good night.
Much appreciated. All right, 10, approve resolution accepting donations. Many thanks. I will run through there. Minnesota FFA Foundation donated $1,000 for an FFA grant. Boeing's Blackbaud Giving Fund donated $2,000 for matching, it's a matching funds from Josh Hager's staff development donation from September. The Pooley Family Trust donated $200 to Essentials Closet. Don White Family donated $50 for a memorial. Richard and Connie Hain donated $20 for high school roller skating. Sean and Maria Mulcahy donated $20 for high school roller skating. Selena Famahexe
Sure.
and Jeremy Heller donated $30 for high school roller skating. And Ridley USA Incorporated donated $47.50 for FFA. All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, Tim.
No, you go.
No, you go.
No,
You're younger.
no.
Respect your elders.
Took off his nameplate, he's.
I'll make a motion to approve the donations with many thanks.
I'll second.
And Tim Elke, and then this one's a roll call, so.
Bourne,
Yes, aye.
Dashner,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Elke,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Size.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Apparently, we don't have any upcoming meetings.
Oh.
I forgot to put that on there,
I-
I guess. I know, we did, I said, we
okay.
forgot to put that on
Our
there.
next meeting is February 13th.
Yes,
No February study session.
correct. So.
Can we move that to February 14th? There's really nothing going on that day.
I hope I have wrestling.
Well, okay.
Didn't just say that.
Yeah, I did.
All right, nothing else then, meeting is adjourned at 6:54, before 7 o'clock.
It wasn't 6:15 like I thought. Tim.
Well, Zach Rowe talked so long.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you, Zach.
Okay, what did my daughter need?
Can I just have you fill out this top part here, so I